Hi, I'm Bryan with Pioneer Builders, and I am thrilled to be on location at the farm, which is HAP headquarters. HAP is Hold and Protect. You can see a couple of their products right here. I'm going to take you through exactly what their product is, why it's a good product, and the different applications. Let's head over to the table, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's talk about exactly what it is that we need to do, especially when it comes to our plumbing systems. We've got our domestic water, we've got our waste. Of course, there's mechanical and electrical we'll talk about later, but the primary purpose of this system is to hold and protect our plumbing system. So what they have is basically all-in-one units, so it's easy to remember, hold and protect. If you look at the vertical parts here, basically, you're used to, especially if you're a plumber, you have to protect your pipes so that you don't get any nail strikes or things like that. You do not want to hit a pressurized water line and cause water damage. In the past, what you're used to seeing is just nail plates on the studs. We've installed thousands of them over the years in the houses that we've built, but this is a better product. If you just look at it, it already looks like a more quality product. I'm with Pioneer Builders, a home builder back in Washington State. We're always looking for a better way to accomplish something. Basically, this is an automotive type product. When it comes to the metal, when it comes to the powder coating, it's going to be stronger and more durable. In fact, just to demonstrate, at some point they tested this out with a 9mm Glock, and it didn't go through. So if it can stop a bullet, it can probably stop your nail. Okay, so that's the protect part. But what about the hold part? That's where this comes in here. Imagine a pipe going through this location. You see, when it comes to your pipes, you have to support it adequately. Have you ever built a house or have you ever plumbed a house and had a callback because you're getting noise in the walls? It can be an absolute nightmare for the homeowner, and it can be a waste of time for you as a plumber or as a builder. Ask me how I know. I remember being in a crawl space and having to deal with this. So what this is it uses snapback metal, and the pipe will go up and around the actual pipe and hold it in place. But due to variations in thermal energy, you can have your pipe actually changing shape, or changing size, I should say. And so in this case, because it has that little bit of flexibility, it will accommodate the actual real world living that you would have in one of your houses that you've built or you've plumbed because of expansion and contraction of your pipes. So you want to make sure that you're supporting all of your pipe work properly, and that is the hold part of the equation. So hold and protect, the HAP system. Let me show you a couple of other things that they have. So when you look inside your wall, you're used to seeing your pipes that will run mostly horizontally. Of course, there is a little bit of a slope to it, depending on if it's part of your waste system. Or they can be vertical stacks because of your venting part of your system. But there's more to it that it can help with than just that. So I'll show you something that's a little bit closer later, but the way they've designed these is in a concentric manner so that as you're possibly having to change the size of the diameter of your pipes, it will naturally accommodate that if you install all of these in level. If you need to have a slope on it, you can do that too. I won't get into all of the nuts and bolts when it comes to how you actually install these things. If you're a plumber, the learning curve would be real fast. And if you're a DIYer or a homeowner, I think it'd be awfully fast for you to figure out too. But there are a couple of other things that they have. I think this is a pretty cool product. Basically, you can hang from the ceiling and then have some of your pipe work coming in, and it looks extremely well organized. I think of it very much like if your mind is organized, it's nice to have your house, your MEP organized as well. So you can designate what you're having as far as your pipes are concerned, and still have a nice linear set of pathways for other utilities like your electrical services inside the house, things like that. You can accommodate larger pipe diameters. It would be amazing to me to see a supply that's this size, but of course, in large commercial construction you might. But when it comes to things like your vertical stacks that are going to be larger pipes, that's where something like this can come into play. And then there's other locations where you would use some strap work like this. And one of the cool things about this whole system is it's kind of like Legos. One piece can be used in a variety of different applications. And then of course there's just your tried and true nail plate, except this is way stronger than what you would normally see. Another nice thing about this is it uses screws, the system does. So instead of having those teeth on your nail plates that you might get installed right the first time, or you might pop in one side and then the other, this gets installed very easily and it's very strong. Okay, so it's one thing just to talk about and show you these products. It's another thing entirely to show how they're actually installed, what it looks like after the fact. Let me show you over here, and I think you're gonna really love this. All right, you can see what they've done with their setup here. They've done a variety of different mock-ups, wood frame, steel construction. Most of us are over in the residential world, so I'm gonna show you over here more of a typical setup that you might be used to seeing. So we've got our wood studs, and then they've done a variety of different applications that we can see. So come on down here. Something that you won't see on my jobs is the extensive use of copper. We're right outside of Chicago. I think this is even a code thing. I talked to another gentleman about that before. So what are some of the things that we get to see in action here? This demonstrates nicely the protect part. Working from the studs out, nothing's going to get through that. Then on the hold side of things, you can hopefully hear this. That's that snap technology. So that is the holding side. Now watch this. That's not moving anywhere, but it's also not being coupled to your studs. So that's super important because as you get thermal expansion and contraction, you get water that flows through, you can have louder pipes, which makes homeowners not so happy. But also, when you allow the free movement of your pipe work, you're not going to get those issues at your joints that you might get ordinarily if you're binding or restricting your pipe work from that natural movement it's going to have. Down here you can see that their drain is also being supported. I've had an issue before where we had noise and I had to get in the crawl space to try to figure out what was going on with the plumber. And that just wasted my time and it wasted the plumber's time. If we can do something like this, that is going to save everybody time and make us more productive. Here you can see what they have with this brace here. And they've got these little vertical pipes. Everything is nice and linear. And as we come around, the whole job looks nice. Let me point this out to you. One other thing on this part. They have to have blocking periodically here, and then they're able to use their stud protector up there. So with those vertical pipes, whether this is a wet vent or a dry vent, you're just going to have less movement. And yet at the same time, things can expand and contract. Let me show you something up here. Let me grab my little pointer. I'll be right back. All right, if you look up here, you can see that we've got these vents that come out of the water heater. That's a tankless water heater there. These hangers then is something that you can use maybe in a more utility type manner, but extremely easy to install. And again, it just reduces, if not eliminates, the amount of congestion you have. It kind of forces you to be more linear with your installations. As we come over here, incidentally, there's a couple of other things. They've used the same bracket type situation when it comes to their conduit, their electrical that comes in, another Chicago thing, and then their box here. So while it's not primarily designed for electrical, they have utilized it. You may not have noticed, but up above, they also had refrigerant lines that were being held, but it wasn't being tightly held. It was more supported, might be a better word. So you can think about that if you're in the mechanical side of things, specifically HVAC, with some of the larger products that they have, if it comes to supporting your ductwork. So you can think outside of just plumbing, even though right now that's primarily what it's designed for. So just a real quick walkthrough here. If we viewed this as the municipal water supply coming in. They've got a pressure reduction valve. They've got a backflow preventer, an air gap in here. As this comes around, you can see it too is being supported all the way up into here. They have another one of these little standoffs, and both of these are connected to, now this is the temperature and pressure relief valve pipe work that comes in. They maintained an air gap there, but this whole thing is extremely well supported. So we never want something like this to go bad, but that's the design of a temperature and pressure relief valve. So you could have this situation under pressure, and all of a sudden, due to safety, it relieves out of this. You want to make sure that your pipe work is well supported. Now, I talked briefly about the refrigerant lines up here. Now, they actually have this mini split indoor head running, but if you look, they've used the same type of system to support their refrigerant lines. A lot of times I see these just kind of loose in the wall. They're not very well supported, but they've utilized it on the HVAC side here as well, which I think is pretty cool. All right, I have one more stop on this little journey here. Let me show you something else. Of course, if you're a professional plumber, you'll be able to find this at a plumbing supply house. But if you're a contractor or a DIYer, you notice this is going to be at Home Depot starting in September. In fact, you might even see a setup just like this, and now you've seen it here first. Pretty cool system. I think it's not only extremely high quality, but it's rational, which is something that I've certainly tried to do as a second generation builder, be as rational as I possibly can. I really look forward to trying this out on one of my jobs, and I know you will love it too.